Okay, so Peter decided to start already. There are a few more people coming inside. Just take a seat wherever you want. Also, the first row is free, so don't be shy and join us. I will wait for the other people to coming in for a second. Because we just had a wonderful set in the front part. The Taz Kantine guy was playing a listening ambient set, and a lot of people joined earlier. She was playing till now. But now almost everyone is here. Thank you that you joined. We're having a panel discussion about club culture between Kyiv and Berlin today. And it's part of the format Lost and Found. It's an event and talk series about club culture and focusing on electronic music scene. And I want to thank the Panter Foundation again to making this event possible. They're mostly working with journalists worldwide, also in Eastern Europe. So you can definitely check out their projects online, taz.de/Stiftung. But now I want to focus on the discussion today. As I spoke with Andrii before, he mentioned that people in Ukraine are facing really dark times. It might be the darkest times they faced since the full-scale invasion in 2022. They're facing a lot of electricity problems, which is fundamental not only for daily living but also for cultural events. And besides that, the people developed solutions to work around. For example, this weekend, K41 is celebrating their 6th birthday with a 2-day event, and also Elisaveta Landenberger wrote a really nice article in Taz recently about opera plays happening all over the country. I think it's a good situation to talk about this topic again. And therefore, I want to introduce you my wonderful guests. Next to me, I have Olena Lychovodova. She's an art historian and a cultural manager. She worked for Goethe Institute in Kyiv. Then they were evacuated in 2022, and she was responsible in Berlin for Goethe Institute in exile and coordinated the projects related to Ukraine. And now she works for Goethe Institute still, is responsible for the visitors program. And therefore she gets in touch with cultural workers and artists over and over again. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Then next to her we have Andrii Yankovskyi. He's an international project coordinator and co-founder of the of UNight. It's the Kiev's first nightlife association and advocacy. He's living in Berlin at the moment, and from here he wants to promote the vitality and resilience of the Ukrainian cultural scene on a long term.
Hello.
Welcome. Then next to him we have Kai Sachse. He's the managing director at Berlin's Clubcommission, and recently he traveled to Kyiv as part of the Berlin's Clubcommission's delegations trip, and there you got in touch with a lot of cultural workers and artists in Kyiv, and you also connected the scene in Berlin with them. Welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And last but not least, we have Eva Nomad with us. She's an Ukrainian DJ and music producer and founder of the event series Nova. She's also living in Berlin now, and she's involved in various projects and collaborations that try to support Ukrainians that are affected by the war. Welcome. So let's get right into the topic, and I want to address my first question to Olena Lychovodova. Why is culture actually relevant during war times.
Yes, good evening, dear Martin, dear audience, dear speakers. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting. I'm an Ukrainian, and since our topic related with German-Ukrainian relations, and I'm here as a representative of the Goethe Institute, I will continue in German, and I hope that for everybody it would be also comfortable with that. Thank you so much. Dankeschön also für Ihre Frage. Also in Bezug auf die Kulturfront, also möchte ich Folgendes sagen. Noch also vor dem Ausbruch eigentlich, also schon richtiges Krieges, weil es eigentlich seit 2014 also eigentlich dauert, war also immer also Kultur eigentlich als Soft Power eingesehen. Aber mittlerweile kann ich sagen, dass nicht mehr Soft, aber Hard Power. Und Kultur, also für uns, also bedeutet wirklich also ein Zeichen also des Lebens, des Widerstandes und hat eine enorme also Bedeutung gewonnen, weil also das ist natürlich also klar, dass die ukrainische Identität, die ukrainische Kultur, also sind also die wichtigen Ziele also für die russische Aggression. Und es ist auch also kein Geheimnis, dass man damit gerechnet hat, vielleicht, dass also die Ukraine nach vielleicht 2 Tagen, 3 Tagen oder Wochen also aufgibt und nachdem also die ganze Welt gesehen hat, dass die Ukraine wirklich hält und wir so viel Support also seitens also von Deutschland und von der ganzen Welt bekommen haben, hat also die ukrainische Kultur also sehr viel dazu beigetragen, dass wir uns vereinigt haben. Also das ist das, was, wenn also meine Kollegen, die in der Ukraine so häufig sind, können sehen, dass auch, also vielleicht direkt berichten, dass keine Theater sind geschlossen, dass also Musikfestivals werden durchgeführt. In den Museen, also wo die Kunstwerke jetzt im Depot sind, aber finden also Hybride oder Online-Veranstaltungen oder Workshops. Also das Kulturleben wirklich boomt. Und das ist wirklich ein Zeichen davon, dass es der Geist, der die Ukraine hat, kann man also nicht besiegen. Also das ist das, was uns hält und das uns auch die Hoffnung und die ganze Welt die Hoffnung gibt, dass wir wirklich also diesen Sieg ergattern. Vielen Dank.
Yeah, just a short note on this. If you have like questions because you don't understand German, we can definitely clarify it later. Unfortunately, we don't have a translation right now. But yeah, that's just as a short note here. And Andrii, I want to ask you, what specific role does club culture and the clubbing scene takes over in this soft power thing Olena just mentioned?
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for having me. We in our organization, we consider culture is not something as a sub to a so-called Hochkultur, but rather as a part of general cultural scene on the same level as, let's say, opera, museum exhibition, ballet, or anything that would consider as a classical, let's say, culture. Before the full-scale invasion started, I think a lot of Europeans found out about Ukrainian electronic music scene, Ukrainian festivals, Ukrainian clubs during the pandemic, because Ukraine and Kyiv was one of the first cities to open doors for events in the late 2021, so starting from August, more or less. And it became one of the biggest drivers of cultural economy of the city of Kyiv, and one of the most biggest reason for people to travel to Ukraine. They didn't travel that much for the nature, which is awesome, or for visiting some sites, but rather to go to parties, to connect with people, to listen music. And when the war broke up, of course, there was a certain gap because people were scared. Some people left the country, some people just stopped going out and so on. But now, even now, when we have these electricity cuts, like last week, there was only 3 hours of electricity available in the city, which is outrageous. Still, events are happening, as my colleague here noticed, and people still go out, and they do it because they need place to connect, they need to place to find and talk with other people, to share their experiences, their pain, and also to expose themselves to culture. And electronic music culture is one of the most accessible forms of culture, and it happens much more often, these events, rather than, let's say, theatrical plays or operas, I would say, in general, because they're cheaper to produce. And it's a form for people to also to relax, not only for, civil society, but also for military. We have a lot of guests who came from the front line, who returned home permanently or temporary, and they go to parties because they want to see people, they want to talk, they want to listen to music, they want to dance, and they want to relax a little bit. And the tension inside of the country is quite big, as you can imagine, of course, because of lots of horrible things that are happening every day. And people need a way to release this tension in a organic and non-violent way, and culture is the best form of that tension release. And we, as an organization and our members, we try to provide these events and these projects, even though it's often very hard and sometimes impossible to produce, but yet because the people who are coming to these events, we continue on.
Yeah, thank you so much for this introduction and also explaining the relevance in general. Kai, like the Berliner Clubcommission took action right after the full-scale invasion in February 2022. And first with a fundraising program, and then you expanded mostly with community work between Kyiv and Berlin mostly. Why do you think, or why would you say is solidarity that important?
So I want to first, also thanks for the invitation. I want to also first get a bit into the picture what was happening back then, because I mean, you also said during the pandemic the connection became closer, and also I think a lot of people from Berlin experienced nightlife in Kyiv, and we had still the lockdown, and it was actually the week that the government announced the lockdown would stop after 2 years. So actually during this week, we in our organization and also all the clubs and our members were super optimistic. Hey, we can open up after 2 years, and planning that and planning to make parties and cultural events happening. And then we woke up on Tuesday and were shocked to see that Russia's full-scale invasion on Ukraine started. And actually it felt, or a lot of members also felt feedback that's it feels wrong to open the clubs now as this war is escalating in Ukraine. And then actually also a lot of our members, but also a lot of other actors, also Ukrainians that live here, a lot of people actually reached out to us and were like, hey, what can we do? How can we support? How can we support also Ukrainians? Because we all knew a lot of Ukrainians are on the way to Europe or to Central Europe, to Berlin. And there were a lot of people wanting to help. We also, during the pandemic and Berlin club culture, there was a lot of voluntary work happening. For one reason, because the people didn't have their normal jobs and didn't know what to do, but also for other reason, to have solidarity within the scene. So this solidarity structure was actually still in place, that was built up during the pandemic. So it was basically a lot of people just reaching out to us and wanting to do something. So there were then networks supporting refugees to get to Berlin. There was networks starting fundraising events. We early on reached out to Vice, which is like a huge voluntary organization in Berlin, and also talked to them, hey, what are you doing? Of course, first of all, what they did is like supporting refugees to get to know the new environment here in Berlin, but then later on they also did a lot of cultural events, fundraising events and so on, which we also supported them. And yeah, this kind of came naturally out of the community and out of our members and out of a lot of people that wanted to do something. And then also next thing was we also, a lot of people reached out to us, and a lot of people that came were refugees from Ukraine that wanted to get connected to Berlin club culture, either as an artist or also to just find a job, to have something to do, to earn money. And then also, I mean, yeah, the German government made the decision to make it easier for Ukrainian refugees to get into work. So that was also one thing that led us to, okay, then let's take this situation and spread this information to people who are interested, also to our members, to the clubs who might want to employ people. So I would say this all came very naturally because a lot of people wanted to do something. So it was very natural for us to give that a platform.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Eva, you just decided to move to Berlin after Russia's full-scale invasion. How did you decide it in the end, and why did you choose Berlin, and how was it for you, what Kai just described? Did you felt the solidarity of the scene, or how was your start back then?
So hello everyone, and thank you too for the invitation. Like, the scene I want to share is my personal story, and I hope you will be interested in it. So basically, when everything started, I was living on a very high floor in the most shelled area in Kyiv, and it was basically very dangerous for me to stay there. So I went to my family first on the west of Ukraine, and we make a common decision that I will go out and check the area and understand if like something escalates more, something go wrong, all my family go out. And I can say that this was not easy for me, because I went first to Poland, then I went to Latvia, and I was spending time with my friends and relatives. And at some point, I understood that I'm not really useful, I'm not really growing, and I started to think about Berlin. And Berlin has a very developed infrastructure, musical infrastructure, I mean. And the second point for me was that it's a very big Ukrainian community moved there, and it's like really important for me. And everything just came together, and I found some right housing, and just I felt that it's really the place I can work, continue my work, I can spread my ideas, and it's really worked out. So this is my story.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Olena, you just mentioned it before that you want to fight on the cultural front. You also said this in an interview with the Berliner Zeitung. And yeah, you carried this fight on the one hand professionally with the Goethe-Institut in exile, but also on a personal level. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on this and also what the fight means to you actually on these both levels.
Ja, gerne. Dankeschön für diese Frage. Ja, ich fühle mich auch eigentlich sehr angetan, also von allen diesen Geschichten und von dem, also was Eva gesagt hat. Wir hatten also, glaube ich, die meisten von uns, also eigentlich eigene Geschichten, also wie wir eigentlich das durchgemacht haben, um hier zu sein. Also viele von uns haben das gar nicht geplant. Und das war noch also quasi mit Covid verbunden und wie gesagt, ohne das zu wollen, also musste ich die Entscheidung innerhalb also von einer Stunde treffen, um von Kiew nach Berlin mit meiner Mutter zu kommen, also die auf der Intensivstation mit Covid war, und das war alles irgendwie sehr chaotisch, aber zu damaligen Zeiten habe ich im Goethe-Institut in Kiew schon lange gearbeitet als Programmkoordinatorin im Bereich Kultur, und dann war ich in Berlin und mir wurde ich wurde eingeladen als Kuratorin des ukrainischen Festivals im Projekt Goethe-Institut im Exil zu wirken. Also ganz kurz vielleicht zu diesem Projekt. Also das ist wirklich vom Goethe-Institut in Berlin entwickelt worden, quasi als Plattform für die Künstler, internationale Künstler, die im Exil sind, also aus den Ländern, also wo Goethe-Institute aufgrund des Krieges oder der Krisen also nicht mehr aktiv sein können. Und als Headquarter also von diesem Projekt ist das Kulturhaus Akut in Berlin, also mit Kinos, Theater, also schönen Räumen, also für Workshops. Deswegen ist es möglich, großmediale, also wirklich große Veranstaltungen durchzuführen. Und das war gerade 2022, wo die Ukraine war, der erste so Länderschwerpunkt, also im Rahmen dieses Projekts, wo man also wirklich also die Stimme also zur Unterstützung der Ukraine erheben könnte. Also danach also einfach also zur Orientierung kamen solche Themen also und Länderschwerpunkte wie Afghanistan, Belarus, Iran und Sudan. Und zurück also zu diesem ersten Länderschwerpunkt, also der Ukraine. Das war wirklich etwas ganz Besonderes, weil deswegen habe ich gleich also als man also nach Berlin nach diesem also ganzen Ausbruch gekommen ist, und alle waren wirklich innerlich sehr geschockt, also seelisch verbrannt. Und deswegen, das war überhaupt kein Festival, obwohl das in der Öffentlichkeit als Festival gepriesen wurde. Das war ein Appell. Und für mich als Kuratorin war das relativ einfach, also die Besten von den Besten zu finden. Ich habe also nur gefragt, Sergei Jadan, dann Vlad Troitsky aus Paris und die Besten, alle Besten in allen Fachbereichen. Ich habe also auch die Künstler im Exil eingeladen, die ukrainischen, aber auch also diejenigen, die in der Ukraine waren, konnten für ein paar Tage hierher kommen. Also sehr bekannte Schriftsteller und auch also für die Kinderliteratur, auch Choreografen und so weiter. Und das war wirklich amazing. Wir hatten also auch also natürlich also musikalische Bereich, also endlich mit den Künstlern, die hier im Exil sind. Also das waren also Juri Gurji, allerdings er ist schon lange da. Er ist aus Kharkiv, aber natürlich schon viele Jahre also in Berlin tätig, sehr aktiv. Das war als ADS Sapokas Trio, die mir also mit Jazz, also das ist keine Techno oder elektronische, aber das war wirklich auch ganz toll. Dann das war Alex Skripka, das war wiederum Sergei Jadan mit seinem Band Unter im All, so heißt es. Und das war wirklich was ganz Besonderes, und damals konnten wir in der großen Öffentlichkeit, in der breiten Öffentlichkeit, also dieser Kulturappell geben, dass wir als Kulturschaffende, als Kulturmanager auch an unserer Frontlinie sind, obwohl wir im Exil sind, aber diese unmittelbare Brücke zur Ukraine wurde nie aufgehört, und wir sozusagen, unser Herzen schlagen im gleichen Schlag mit anderen. Ja. So war es vielleicht ein bisschen emotional, aber ja.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing it. Andrii, it might be a bit similar to what you did, because you founded UNight in 2023, also from Berlin, and you were also like then fighting for Ukrainian culture from Berlin, actually. How are you doing this? What are your projects, and how do you support Ukrainian artists and club culture from Berlin at the moment?
I came to Berlin in April 2022. Before I've been many places. I left Ukraine in winter 2021 and was not planning to leave for so long, but unfortunately it happened, and eventually I came to Berlin for a similar reason as Yeva, because I had a lot of friends and a lot of connections that was actually established during this 2021 Berlin-Kyiv exchange train, and I also have a lot of friends who either moved during the war or moved before the war to Berlin, so it was a natural place for me where I could feel a little bit close to home. And when I came here, a lot of my friends were also involved in Vice, so we started to work with them during first year, organizing fundraisers and festivals here, bringing Ukrainian artists to German scene, not only electronic music artists, but also jazz and pop and rock and different styles. We launched a project which is called Ukrainian Sound Garden, who were happening for 3 years in a row. We had in total 5 events together, six events together. Back in 2021, we had an issue with the so-called far-right groups. I say so-called because the ties between the actual far-right movement and the group that was attacking nightclubs in Kyiv was not direct. So it was more like a thug group that presented themselves as a far-right organizations, and they were recruiting youngsters. So people were like 15, 16, 17 years old who didn't really know what they're doing, and feed them a lot of misinformation and push them to go and first protest against clubs and then attack clubs. So our venue, HVLV, that I also co-founded, and K31, the club that is somebody knows as Berghain of Kyiv, has been attacked during that period of time, and we came together with the managers of the club, and we decided that we need to do something together. And we started to talk about launching a advocacy organization to represent ourselves, because there were no institution that could represent our rights and our industry. But then the war started, and of course we put those questions aside because there was much more immediate issues that needed to be addressed at the time. And then when the situation, I wouldn't say calm down, but at least we learned how to live with the war realities, we returned to that discussion, and we understood that, okay, the war is not going anywhere and we need to move on forward, and we brought back resurfaced this idea of launching a nightlife association. We also saw what is happening in Berlin with like Clubcommission, how they grow, what project they did, and we understood that we need to institutionalize ourselves in order to, first of all, to be taken seriously, but also to be able to partner with organizations, for example, like Clubcommission or NTIA UK or other institutions around the world, because it's hard to partner with just independent venues, let's say, or just scattered stakeholders. So we had a few Zoom calls. We found people who were immediately interested in launching the project. It was a 4 organization back at the time, and we started as a group of 4, later joining more and more people. Now we have over 20 members in total, and we launched it first of all to support the culture in Kyiv. That was our primary goal, but also because I was based in Germany, in Berlin, and I had already at the time quite a lot of connections here with different organizations. I was speaking on few conferences back then. We decided that this is also the direction we want to go. We want to represent Ukraine internationally through conferences. First, because again, the voice of Ukrainian scene was not really there at the time. And later we partnered with the Clubcommission. We did a few amazing projects, I think, together. We partnered with the Ukrainian Institute in Germany. We partnered with Goethe Institute in Kyiv. And now the international direction is one of the priority for us, for our organization, I mean, because we think that representing Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian art, Ukrainian electronic, but not only music community, is a very important part of this battle that Olena was talking about, because we see that Russia and, you know, not only Russia, but let's say the evil forces that are gathering all around the world, they don't use just the lethal weapons to fight this war. It's a hybrid warfare. They use a lot of tactics, including misinformation, include funding far-right or far-left organizations in order to create a clash inside of various societies, including German societies, of course, but in general in Europe. And they also use their soft power, their culture, to promote themselves. And we see that that they are quite successful in what is happening. When you look maybe not only at electronic music scene, but for example at the film industry, Russian directors are still invited to Cannes and major film festivals because they are presenting themselves as dissidents or as the victims of the regime or as the heroes who fight against the Russian oppressive regimes. While Ukrainians is not so often presented on those festivals, unfortunately, not always. But also when they are there, they're often being spoken about as the victims of the war, and that's all. Where in reality, the Ukrainian nation is taking the heavy-duty fight against the regime, not the Russian dissidents, not the Russian people who live abroad who just moved here, or not the Russian people who live in Russia. They don't really take a stand against the Russian government. The Ukrainian soldiers take a stand against the Russian government, and Ukrainian society who fights or who gathers aid and resources to send to the front line. Ukrainians who live abroad, who launch fundraisers and promote Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian politics and speak about on events like this. They take a stand, less than, of course, the military, but still. And that is an important issue that we also want to take into consideration for us as an organization and take some action, not only consider, but also take some action. And that's why we do projects here in Berlin to present Ukrainian culture so the people know about it and they can also relate to it. Because I think that the more you know about a place or a country or a nation, the more likely you will be willing to help them one way or another. We did this project with Berlin Clubcommission when people went to Kyiv, and when they came back, I spoke with many of the delegates, and I can feel how their perception of the war in Ukraine and Ukrainian culture has changed because they had a direct contact with what is happening. And of course, it's not the same when you just bring Ukrainian artists here in Berlin and people maybe visit a concert and enjoy it and then go home and maybe in 3 months forget about it. But if you do it consistently and repeatedly, at some point it become a part of European cultural context. And in that way, people start to relate to the country and the culture and not consider it as something secondary or something that is, can just vanish and nobody notice. So I think the role that we are trying to do internationally is to make Ukraine as noticeable as possible. And since we're cultural workers, me and my colleagues, we work in this domain. In the cultural domain, we try to be as loud as possible, as uncomfortable as possible, and address as much attention to us and to our problems as possible, because as we also know and see, the topic is fading away and people move on to other local or international problems. And that is also the tactics of the Russian propaganda machine. They want to let people forget about what is happening in Ukraine, not being represented in the news or wherever, because in that way it's much easier to absorb a country or a territory because you don't really know much about it, so why would you care? And that's what we're trying to do, to make, at least try to make people care more and try to, put as many people on our side. And this is the mission of my department and of our organization in general.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing these insights and also elaborating on the war on culture. We will definitely come back to this later. But first, I wanted to ask Kai, because you were part of the cooperation and of the delegation trip to Kyiv, and Andrii just talked about it, that you might have another impression now. That's why I wanted to ask if you can share some experiences or of your trip to Kyiv with us.
Yeah, I was very, or we were as a delegation, very privileged to be able to go to Kyiv and experience the scene there and the city, and got into exchange with a lot of cultural workers, with a lot of people working in the club scene and nightlife there, which is also part of a project that we've been doing for some years to get more economic ties also and more exchange in the nightlife industry and in the club culture with several other cities. So after what I told before, it was very natural to us to also work together with Kyiv and UNight. And also it became very natural because like also on a political level, the cities kind of partners. So there's a city partnership also between Berlin and Kyiv. So yeah, we got there. We were also very lucky that the major US representative was in the city the same days. So there was no Russian shelling or drone attacks while we were there. So we were in a very privileged situation of not having constant alarms, which is definitely not the reality right now. And also we didn't have any problems with energy outages or whatsoever. But yeah, what I experienced, and I think what was really eye-opening for me is really first of all, the passion people are doing their culture work. And I also want to get to what Olena said, like it is not only a soft power, but a hard power, and people know why they are doing that. They know why they are doing the culture work, and it is important because they are not only facing they're not only facing the drone attacks and shellings, but also information warfare, disinformation, and also I think a lot of people, of course, have the experience. They know what happens after Russian imperialism wins. And after Crimea got annexed, for example, there was no culture. There is no cultural diversity happening in Crimea now. It's basically gone. And the people, and I think that's why it is important to also be active I mean, a lot of people would think, yeah, I mean, there is more important things to do rather than go out to a club or go to parties or do cultural work. But I think it's important, or what I saw is that for the people that still live there and are doing that, that's important for them and important for the identity and important for the life that they are living and that they want to protect. So I think, therefore, and I think that experiencing that and hearing these stories and hearing this understanding firsthand, that was very impressive and insightful for me. Also from like the perspective how you normally see it in the news and only on this like political level with like the politicians discussing and not really. And I think there is a lack of representation of like what normal life. And I think like there is this lack of representation, and there is this lack of story in German and Western media, and also in what we can experience. And I think like seeing that, experiencing that, and hearing all this story, it's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Eva, wanted to ask, because your bio on the event series Nova says spreading Ukrainian sound worldwide. And I was wondering if you think that it might actually be easier to achieve under these circumstances from Berlin at the moment than from Kyiv, and how this work is going for you from Berlin.
So basically, I can say that it's definitely not easier. It's just a different focus. From Berlin, what I'm trying to do and what I was trying to do with my previous project here is we are trying to connect the local scene with Ukrainian music, with Ukrainian musicians, and like scenes are different now from the moment when the invasion started. Like it's really different, and what I'm trying to do with the project now that show it's not about the war only. It's about the emotions. It's about the energy. It's about the talent. It's about like the work, and I can really say that. It raise visibility. It raise visibility is basically the survival of us, and it's really important to support this artist right now. And also, like again, it's not only about the war; it's also about the people who are behind it and about the culture, and that's what I'm trying to focus on. And what about the bio, about the Ukrainian sound? It actually means for me basically the music that's created by Ukrainian people, by Ukrainian artists, mostly live projects, live performances, like the music they created and put in their DJ sets and share with the world. And also I could say that Ukrainian music is really interesting phenomena. Because during the war, especially, people creating music that has no definition of it. It's like not defined by a style. It's something new. It's something unique that we still need to figure out what it is. So I think this is really important to do. And also with my project, it's quite political scene because I believe that we really need, me personally, other people, we really need to support and spread this sound and show this artist to the world and like support their voice, basically. So.
Yeah, Andrii, you are also part of a collective called Bus Resistance, and you've also been touring through Europe the last year and had a lot of performances also as a DJ. Do you also have like a specific sound identity or idea how you want to spread Ukrainian culture in, like as an artist or with your collective?
Well, we are called Bus Resistance, so you can imagine it's not ambient. But yes, we do have a collective, an artist collective. It's composed of mainly Ukrainian artists. Now we are all based in Berlin, but when we started, we have people who were also based in Marseille and Barcelona. They just moved to Berlin eventually. But we decided to go on tours for a few reasons, and the main one was, of course, a fundraising. For us, it was important that we launched the whole project to, of course, spread awareness about Ukrainian music and showcase Ukrainian artists and showcase Ukrainian music scene, but also to raise funds through the events that we are gathering. And the economical situation in Berlin is not the best, I would say. There's a lot of events happening, but I think everybody knows that many promoters and artists are struggling a lot. And we understood that for us, it would make much more sense to go to other places that don't have such a saturated market and also don't have such a saturated Ukrainian market, not to compete with other events like Nova, for example, and many other parties that were happening here at the time. But at the same time, let's say in Paris or in Brussels where we went, there was pretty much no other collectives or no other events happening. And we thought that this is a unique opportunity for us to bring Ukrainian sound to those cities where there is a lot of people who were eager to come. And the project that we had, the Bus Resistance on Tour that we launched in 2023, in spring 2023, we toured across 8 cities in total, including Berlin and Kyiv. Some of the part of our team also went to Kyiv, but we also went to Marseille, Barcelona, Paris, Brussels, and we were in Switzerland and Lyon. It was a really amazing experience for the team, but also we managed to raise substantial amounts of funds through this tour, around 10,000 euros in total, which was unimaginable for us to do with the event series in Berlin, or maybe we just don't know how to do it in Berlin. That's also can be happening. But it was also very interesting that we were able to fill spaces in those cities where we were not based in quite easily, because there was a huge demand for Ukrainian sound, because again, there is no representation of that sound. And we understood that for us, this touring experience, this touring approach, we call it a hero project, is what we actually want to do as a collective. We still do events from time to time in Kyiv. Our next party will be in Arkaoda on 28th of November, just in case. But for us, the Berlin events are more like a community gathering where we can reconnect with the people, with our community here in Germany. But what we actually focus on is the touring experience, because it allows us to bring Ukrainian culture to a much broader audience, and to audience that haven't experienced that before, and also to raise funds. So I would say this is like two staples on which our collective is holding so far. We're not per se a promo group, but rather this artistic collective that tries to do crazy projects. And we also understood that when you do a project like that, when you say like we're going on a tour in 10 cities, a lot of media attention is being drawn to us, rather than when we say we're having a party in Arkaoda. Okay, who cares? I mean, some people care, but we will not get a publication in Tats magazine, for example, about that. But when we do a tour, we did. So that's the thing. When we try to think outside of the box, maybe in a way, or try to do something that is a little bit more challenging, or much more challenging, we get much more media attention. And even we did the next tour this year in spring. It was not as successful, like in terms of fundraising, because it was shorter and we focused on just one country. But even then, we had a lot of media attention, and it was not so important for the fundraising, or not so successful for the fundraising, because fundraising is still important. But it was really successful in terms of media attention and general attention from the Belgium Society, for example, which was a great opportunity for us, and I think is a great way to promote Ukrainian culture. So I would recommend every collective that is based in Berlin or elsewhere to go on these tours, because it really makes a difference.
Yeah, thank you so much. We were talking quite a lot now that Ukrainian culture is a target of Putin's neo-imperial ambitions. And Olena, I wanted to ask you how we can sustainably protect Ukrainian culture in Berlin and make it visible, and what role also German institutions as Goethe Institute play in this fight.
Ja, danke schön. Auch für diese Frage. Also ich möchte auch damit anfangen. Eigentlich, Sie machen schon als Taz und Sie persönlich schon ziemlich viel. Und am Beispiel also von der Taz, diejenigen, die auch also ukrainisches Filmfestival unterstützt haben, sie haben einen ganz tollen Empfang. Also für die ukrainische Delegation, die auf Einladung der Bundesregierung hier war, das waren also die Vertreter von auch also des Regierungssektors, aber nicht nur, das waren auch also NGOs und Journalisten, die sich mit dem Thema Desinformation und russische Propaganda auseinandergesetzt haben. Das Programm habe ich koordiniert, und Taz waren also ein wichtiger Gesprächspartner, und wir bekamen ein tolles Feedback von Gästen, und deswegen vielen herzlichen Dank. Und auch also an Sie persönlich, dass Sie also dieses Panel organisiert haben und also die Ukraine wiederum also ins Mittelpunkt gestellt, obwohl kann ich mir gut vorstellen, dass wir haben so viele Herausforderungen weltweit und in Deutschland sowieso auch, aber dass Sie wirklich Ihre Solidarität mit der Ukraine, es ist unheimlich wichtig, und mit solcher Unterstützung, die Sie geben, haben wir wirklich also mehr Kraft, also auch an der Kulturfront siegesreich zu sein. Aber noch außerdem möchte ich sagen, das Goethe-Institut auch in der Ukraine macht enorme Arbeit. Also ich bin sehr stolz auf meine Kolleginnen und Kollegen, die im Goethe-Institut Ukraine vor Ort sind. Ich möchte sagen, dass das Goethe-Institut dort kein Tag geschlossen war unter den Raketenangriffen, also während des Blackouts. Also meine Kollegen waren immer entweder online, aber auch jetzt eigentlich präsent tätig und sehr aktiv. Die arbeiten sehr eng mit dem House of Europe zusammen. Also im Prinzip ist es quasi in einem Gebäude, aber nicht nur physisch, auch was die Arbeit angeht. Wir sind sehr tolle Kooperationspartner auch mit der British Council. Leider das Gebäude vom British Council wurde in Kiew zerstört, also der wunderschöne Saal. Und viele Veranstaltungen von der British Council finden jetzt im Goethe-Institut in Kiew statt. Aber was Projekte betrifft, gibt es einen Resilienzfonds, das auch seitens des Auswärtigen Amts, also im Prinzip finanziert wird. Und da wird es ziemlich viel, die Projekte, die zurzeit laufen, unterstützt. Weil Sie können sich vorstellen, auch während der Pandemie, wie stark die Kulturindustrie und Kultursektor eigentlich beeinflusst war. Und jetzt kommen noch diese Herausforderungen. Natürlich vieles ist mit auch Budget verbunden. Man muss die Unterstützung geben. Deswegen gibt es das. Außerdem werden solche Programme für Kulturmanager organisiert, die extra Fähigkeiten und Tools entwickeln, wie kann man schutzbedürftigen Zielgruppen in der Ukraine im Kultursektor helfen. Und was noch super wichtig ist, im April dieses Jahres gab es ein Projekt vom Goethe-Institut zusammen mit Aid Art Center, ALIV und mit Unterstützung des ukrainischen Ministeriums für Kultur und Kommunikation, vom Auswärtigen Amt, damit ich niemanden vergesse, Delegation der Europäischen Kommission in Kiew, aber auch Siemens Stiftung, Robert Bosch Stiftung, ein tolles Projekt gemacht, wo 80 Kulturexperten aus der Ukraine während einigen Tagen sich zusammengesetzt haben und haben eine Bestandaufnahme auf Needs, Majors and Emergencies, im Culture Sector, zusammengetan, was eigentlich eine Vorlage dann war für die Konferenz, Ukraine Recovery Konferenz in Rom. Und da wurde es im Prinzip durchgegangen, was gerade der Standard ist und wo Needs sind. Ganz konkret kann ich sagen, dass natürlich vieles wird jetzt digitalisiert, ja, dass die Unterstützung in dieser Hinsicht, aber außerdem Locations, wo Kulturveranstaltungen durchgeführt werden, werden heutzutage auch an die Kriegsbedingungen angepasst. Viele Kulturspaces werden auch in Bunkers oder in Schutzräumen durchgeführt. Das muss auch angepasst werden. Sehr wichtig, was sinngemäß angeht, dass die ukrainische Kultur weiterhin im europäischen Kontext promotet wird. Und da ist die Zusammenarbeit mit europäischen Strukturen, Partners ist enorm wichtig. Wir schätzen unwahrscheinlich, dass deutsche Partner, europäische Partner auch heutzutage in die Ukraine reisen, dass auch gemeinsame Projekte durchgeführt werden. Und ich kann sagen, vor kurzem war eine Delegation von Art Criticals, und Kulturschaffenden aus der Ukraine, die nach Deutschland gekommen sind. Und immer Intention besteht darin, gemeinsame Kulturprojekte zusammen mit deutschen Partnern zu entwickeln, trotz des Krieges. Das ist wirklich absolut unbelievable. Und diese Stärkung der Kulturbeziehungen, zwischen den Ukrainischen, die dort vor Ort sind, und diejenigen, die im Exil sind, wirklich ununterbrochen. Und vielleicht noch ein Punkt, den ich sagen möchte, das hat schon seit 2022, vielleicht auch früher angefangen. Wir haben eine sehr starke Entwicklung von Social Diplomacy. Du musst nicht unbedingt ein ausgebildeter Diplomat sein, aber dieses Social and Culture Engagement, was jeder von uns mitbringt, Also das ist auch die Zielsetzung des Auswärtigen Amts. Wir vertreten unsere Kulturbranchen. Jeder von uns ist im gewissen Sinne ein Ambassador, also Culture Ambassador in dem, was man macht. Ich kann Ihnen also mehrere Beispiele jetzt nennen. Also das ist nicht nur Musik, aber zum Beispiel hier, also in Berlin, haben wir sehr talentvolle Künstler, die einfach im Exil sind. Sie fliehen mussten, weil so Häuser zerstört sind oder einfach lebensbedrohlich war. Also wir haben also die erste ukrainische Kunstgalerie hier in Berlin, heißt Serpen, das ist nicht weit vom Anhalter Bahnhof, wo also die ukrainische Kunst also vorgestellt wird, ständige ganz tolle Events durchgeführt. Da werden also die Lesungen also von Artkritiker vom Mistecki Arsenal in Kiew durchgeführt, wie zum Beispiel von Oksana Schur. Am 27. Goethe-Institut im Exil organisiert zum Beispiel eine Lesung von War Diaries von Evgenia Belarusits, das ist im Moritz-Salon. Also das sind nur ein paar Beispiele. Also es gibt natürlich Regisseure, ukrainische Theaterregisseure, die machen also ganz tolle Aufführungen, wie Andrii Mai in Köln mit dem Jugendtheater und so weiter. Das sind auch gewisse, finde ich, tolle Missionen, dass individuell, also auf eigene Art und Weise wird die ukrainische Kultur und Kunst hier von unseren wirklich ukrainischen, tollen, bekannten ukrainischen Kulturschaffenden also vorgestellt. Und so entwickelt sich noch dies zusätzliche Bekanntmachung also von der ukrainischen also Kunst und Kultur, weil man muss sich vorstellen, dass eigentlich bei diesem Krieg, also was eigentlich Russland also so barbarisch sich vorstellt, sie wollen also die ukrainische Identität eliminieren. Also die ukrainische Kultur, die also seit Kiewer Rus im Prinzip, das war schon eine Zivilisation damals, dass man versucht, das irgendwie umzuschreiben und also einfach zu stillen. Es ist für uns, es ist auch sehr wichtig, klarzustellen und diese Etymologie und Herkunft der ukrainischen Kultur und Kunst ganz genau zu forschen. Und jetzt gibt es also sogar jetzt also Forschungsgruppen, Museumsgruppen, die im Metropolitan, in Louvre, also in weltweiten Museen schauen, also wo die Kunst da so eigentlich Russland zugeschrieben wird, aber eigentlich das sind ukrainische Künstler. Und wenn man also das also zusammenfasst, ich möchte bloß sagen, dass alle meine Kollegen, die da sind, viele also, die ich also vielleicht auch nicht genannt habe, also Fotografen, Choreografen, Schauspieler, also Regisseure, die hier vor Ort sind, machen wirklich also die eigene Mission, um die ukrainische Kultur lebendig zu halten. Dankeschön.
Yeah, thank you so much for elaborating on this and also giving a brighter perspective on other cultural fields. I think it's very important. Maybe I want to give the audience the possibility to ask questions. We have a microphone here. So if anybody wants to comment or ask a question, then feel free to do so. Also not online, then I would have like another question to Kai actually, because yeah, we just heard that there's a lot of things going on that Ukrainians can unfold their culture also in Berlin, but I also wanted to ask what you like in the field of the clubbing scene and electronic music think could help to move forward, or what are other steps that you have in mind, or if you have projects in mind?
Yeah, we also did, while in our time in Kiev, we also did a conference and also, of course, exchanged a lot with the local scene on what they would like to see, how we can collaborate. And I think like one very big aspect was also how to, like, capacity building of bookers, club staff, how to run a venue, how to promote events, professionalize in that, and I think like that's also a thing where like different perspective, like it creates a lot of synergies, I think, when you work cross-country, cross-border with like different actors. And I mean, Andrii just said, like it's such a big experience also to go abroad, to go to different locations and to showcase your work internationally. And I think to build networks on like educating, not educating in the sense of educating people, but more like capacity building and education in the sense to professionalize your business and promotion, awareness, and so on. Another thing is also on a technical level, of course, like how to. I think we can also support on this, and also artist exchange actually. Like book Ukrainian artists here in Berlin have like a network of partners to go in various directions. Also. A lot of bookers and clubs in Kyiv are very passionate about booking artists from Berlin or other big cities because of what Olena just said, because everyone's basically an ambassador and a multiplier, and they will tell the stories, they will share their first-hand stories and experience from what they experienced in Kyiv. So, like, yeah, just making the network and the ties that we have in club culture, making that stronger.
We just also like Berlin DJs. Just to think, you know, in Kyiv, people like artists from Berlin because they're cool. That's true. I mean, people are really excited about it.
So, Eva, what do you think as a Ukrainian artist being based in Berlin? How can we shape a productive future together, or also for what would you wish in the near future?
So for me, it's basically very painful and personal question also, because from my perspective, what I can see, it's basically like a general economic crisis everywhere worldwide, and it really affects a lot many cultural projects. And some kind of suggestion or what will be helpful, I can see that creating some kind of structure, accessible structures like grants, residencies, collaborative programs that can be gathered in one place, and that basically promoters, organizers, artists have access to it and can apply and receive this support, financial, I don't know, informational, basically to continue their work is very important. And for the clubs and for the big artists, what I can say that I would love to see people involved in supporting fundraising programs, because I can say like that the war in Ukraine not getting easier. It's actually the opposite scene, and the attention to this matter decreased. It's like really not that much attention for now, and it's important to continue this solidarity with Ukrainian projects as much as is possible.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing the personal experience. Thank you. Ah, yeah, perfect.
Hello. How successful have you been in bringing in artists from around the world, whether it be concerts, well, I'm thinking mainly of concerts, or art, or ballet, or dancing, to not only revive the cultural scene in country, but also to generate international awareness and solidarity?
You mean to Kyiv? No, to Ukraine.
Yeah. Is it even possible? I mean, Angelina Jolie was recently there, so.
Angelina Jolie was there, yes, she was in her song. Speaking about artists, like there is a strong connection. It's not as strong as it was right before the war, as I mentioned before, but artists are coming to Ukraine. You need to have a certain bravery to do that, and you need to understand the consequences of your actions. We encourage but don't actually recommend, we can't recommend people like, please go to war. Because we try to educate people about what is happening, and they need to take conscious decision whether they want to be there or not. I wouldn't say that international art is somehow reviving the scene. This is not really the case. The scene is booming as it is, but they bring diversity. And diversity is really important because at the end of the day, you have so much of Ukrainian artists, and the more you can bring from abroad, the more interesting and diverse your events would be, no matter which type of events it is. So it's not really about reviving, but rather to add a more diverse experience for the visitors, for the general population. And if you are asking about how it is to go to Ukraine, we actually spoke about it with my colleagues recently, that we need maybe to write a guideline and publish on our website, because many people want to go but don't know how, or don't understand exactly what's happening or how it's happening and so on. But just for the knowledge, you don't need a visa mostly. Most of not all the Europeans, they don't need a visa to go to Ukraine, so crossing the border is pretty easy. Unfortunately, you cannot fly. There is no flight. You need to take a train from Poland, and to go to Poland, you can fly or take a train from Berlin, for example. And then the journey, Kain can tell more about it, but it's a long 24-hour journey from Berlin by 2 trains, or it can be 3. To go there. It's an exhausting experience, so I would not recommend you to go less than 1 week, because it's just 1 day to go there and 1 day to go back, you know. But in terms of hosting and performing and so on, there's many venues. They're active. We have many festivals. We have many big events like Schema, for example, or other huge parties and celebrations on that matter, and they're very happy to welcome international artists there. It's just the thing that you need to bear the road. And it's not only about Kyiv. Artists are coming also to places like Kherson, as you mentioned with Angelina Jolie, but also to Kharkiv, which is very close to frontline, but they have an amazing venues there, an amazing scene, beautiful people doing amazing work. And every artist who went to Kharkiv came back a different person. I can tell you that for sure. I would not recommend anyone just go book a ticket and go to Kharkiv right now. You need to consider this as your own choice, because nobody can guarantee the safety. But at the same time, I can assure you that you will have a fantastic experience, a warm welcome, and also a lot of people who went there and back told beautiful things, especially about the audience who are there on the parties, and the energy on the dance floor is different than the energy on the dance floor even here in the capital of nightlife, just because every event or every party, it's a dark thought, but it's also kind of true that every event feels like the last one. And because it feels like the last one, you also give 100% to it, because you never know what can happen tomorrow. And speaking of like security, when we had the delegation, we assured the guys that you will stay in Podil. Podil is in the city center area. It's going to be safe, because we hadn't had any attacks on this area for 3 years. And when they came back, 3 weeks after that, this area was attacked. So no one can tell you or give you a guarantee that you will going to be fine. It's always your own risk, unfortunately. But, I can say life is worth risking. Maybe that would be my statement in a way. But yeah, I think if you are willing to take this responsibility of your own life, let's say, it's people go to crazy mountains, and they go to crazy tours, and they go to many more risky places than Kyiv, I would say sometimes. So it's your own choice. But will you have a great experience? I can guarantee that for sure.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, we do have one over there.
Hi, I'm Ksenia. I have a question about festivals, about the podium discussions like this. from my experience, I have many artist friends. I'm a photographer. I photograph many culture and politics-related events. In 2022, the situation was pretty obvious. When you are a Ukrainian artist and you realize that you are invited in the event where there will be also, I don't know, Russian artists, dissidents, whatsoever, you say, okay, I won't participate in this event if this person also participates. I don't want to support the narrative about peace being possible, about forgiveness before Russia actually went back home and apologized. The organizers would want you there because to not have you there but have Russian would mean to close the eyes on what's happening. But situation is pretty different now, right? From, I know, at least from my experience, it feels like now you should sometimes take a hard decision, either to say, I won't participate in this event, and organizers say, okay, or somehow compromise with your consciousness because you have a mission to represent your culture, your country, to be ambassador of your country. My question is, what compromise? Do you do this compromise? Do you like how the dialogues between you and German, European partners, how the inside dialogue is processing, and what decision you take for yourself if you are in this situation? Is it to take part at the event with Russian and represent your country and advocate your country and talk about it, or to not go and stand by the position we don't take part in the events where Russians take part?
To who do you address the question, or is it?
To the musicians, maybe to the musicians and maybe to Olena as a cultural manager. I would really like to know the insight of these dialogues.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ksenia, for your question. It's really so. On the one side, it's a difficult question. From the other side, maybe not. I have my personal opinion, also as Olena, but there's sometimes also institutional opinion, yeah. And maybe you know that the Goethe Institute unfortunately wasn't closed, also in Russia. So there's the Goethe Institute also exists also in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and we, as I used to work at the Goethe Institute in Ukraine, in Kyiv, we had a very hard discussion with our board, also with the headquarters, and actually the intention of our leadership is that the only opportunity to support civil society in Russia. And therefore, the Goethe Institute is actually the process there. From my personal opinion, I try to avoid, actually I'm not ready, yes, to have any mixed formats. And I know there's many people also from Russia who's here have been living for long periods and very supportive. But I can't personally, not yet. It's so, but. Really, if we organize something, it's for me it is clear, my vision. But of course, I have, if I don't alone, by my own, to have to take this decision, I have also to hear the other voices, from other boards, and to act also politically. And we know that Germany is more diplomatic in this way. Therefore, maybe it would be my answer now.
If I may add to that, first of all, thank you for this question. I think it's a very important question and topic nowadays. Again, there is a personal opinion and institutional, organizational opinion. I can't say for all my colleagues because we also have different, let's say, viewpoints on those sides. But in general, first of all, we need to address let's say, the question is that somehow we happen to live in the world where it is still in 2025 normal to invite Russian artists to any like film festival or conference or whatever, and also may or may not invite Ukrainians. That's a different question, but still the point is that we still, organizers of events or festivals or club owners, they still invite Russian artists to perform because, as I said before, yes, there are dissidents, there are heroes who are fighting against the Russian regime, or there are victims of the Russian regime, either or. At the same time, we see a huge anti-Israeli movement happening here, where we have Israeli artists being pursued or banned from performing, or even banned from streaming services, or at least there is a movement to ban Israeli artists from streaming services. And I don't want to compare Israel-Palestine conflict to Ukrainian-Russian conflict. It's a very different context per se. But what I want to say is that we can't provide, like, I think not we, but what I want to see more in the European or Western world is that they cannot provide the platform for an aggressor to perform or to speak while the aggression is happening, because it diminishes their responsibilities over the war. And unfortunately, somehow, the Russian propaganda machine succeeded a lot in that notion that the Russian artist is not responsible for the war because they're against the war. And of course, we need to separate, I would say like this, we need to separate people who were born in Russia but publicly stated their position against the regime and are not economically or culturally connected to Russia, and actually actively like doing a pro-Ukrainian work, pro-Ukrainian fundraisers, let's say, and actively speaking the truth. And the truth is that Russia is having a genocidal war against Ukraine. And unfortunately, most of the Russian artists, or not maybe most, but the majority of them are either not speaking at all, or they're talking in a very vague terms, like we need just to achieve peace, but when you ask them what peace means to you, they're also very, not very clear about it. And some of them are just hiding the fact that they're Russians. They change their names offline or online. They take down all their connections to Russia without any public statement and pretend to be, let's say, Germans or British or French people just to hide out and blend in. And this is also not acceptable, I think. I think that we need to put at least the same level of responsibility on the Russian population and the Russian artists worldwide, as we do nowadays, not we, but as it's done nowadays from especially at the liberal movement on the Israeli artists. But I would say, as a Ukrainian, of course, we need to put even more pressure, because for me, and I think for many people, I think here, it's also clear that it's not a very complicated issue with Ukraine and Russia. It is a clear assault on the country that did not make any assault towards Russia, pretty much never. And how to fix it, I don't know, but answering the question that you pointed out, what to do when you are invited to speak or to present your work on the same platform as the Russian artists, what at least we do is first we reach out to organizers and we try to explain them that this is not good, this is not correct. And some of them are open to dialogue, some of them are not. And if they're open to dialogue, usually it's resolved pretty quickly. We usually write a statement or express the issue, and usually they take down the Russian participant, which is already a win. Sometimes there is no dialogue, and we try to reach out to Ukrainian institutions like Ukrainian Institute, for example, or Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to speak on behalf of us, because often the institutional support helps. But sometimes it also doesn't help. Sometimes the organizers can be ignorant to that, and then it's your choice. Let's say it's a Cannes festivals, and you can choose whether it's only Zvagintsev movie will be there, or also Zvagintsev movie and the Ukrainian, let's say, Katerina Hornostai movie is going to be presented there. And it's a personal dilemma, but my personal opinion to this is that I think it's always better to be presented than not to be presented. So you need to make as many steps as possible to cancel the Russian artist from the program if you can, or a Russian participant from the program if you can. Again, if we see that this is the type of people who have absolutely no statements or no responsibility over their country. And if there is no way to do that, then it's a question whether it's worth it or not. And if we're talking about a big event, big festival like Cannes Festival, or let's say Primavera Sound, and there is a Nina Kravitz in the lineup who has photos with Putin, and she lives in Moscow and travels a lot and blah, blah, blah. And if they don't want to take it down, and there's a question whether this particular band will be presented or not, it's always their choice. But in generally, politically, I think it's always better to be presented even on the same platform, than not to be presented at all. Because if we will cancel ourselves instead of canceling the Russian participants, we will also limit the amount of audience and voice that can reach out to the audience. So it's really depends on the situation. But sometimes it can be just, I don't know, some small party, and the organizers don't want to discuss anything, they don't care. Maybe then there is no point to even participate in that. So it really depends on the optics of the scale and on the impact of the performer on that platform, whether it will be helpful for Ukrainian cultural diplomacy, or it can be skipped. So I would say like that.
You want to add something?
Yes, thank you so much. I would like also to add very shortly, maybe thank you so much what Andrii said. One example of Anna Netrebka, yes, in the Staatsoper, also unter den Linden. You saw how Ukrainian community, also in Germany, in Berlin, thank you that you mentioned the Ukrainian Institute and also the Ukrainian Embassy, also to Germany, but all Ukrainian artists came together to protest. It's one example. Another example with much more hope that it's another field, the Berliner Biennial 2027 will be led by a Ukrainian creator, Vasily Cherepanin, and I think there will be no space for Russian artists in this case. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question.
Yes. And I already got the mic, which is good, yeah. Sasha, thanks for these interesting discussions so far. Question goes to Andrii. I mean, you mentioned, is it valid when I take out of the snippet, you were telling about these far-right groups which are against techno events.
Against gay people mainly.
Is it then valid that I'm saying, okay, we got not only the Russian aggression, we also got these enemy far-right groups in Kiev. Is that valid?
I wouldn't say it's valid because this group appeared spontaneously. Of course, there is a far-right movement in Ukraine, like everywhere, like here in Germany. But you need to understand that the support of the far-right parties in Ukraine is, before the war, it was like less than 5%. It was a very, very, very small group of people. And I also have a far-right friends that go to our club, like to our venue, and they have a good time, and they have no problem with that because their agenda is completely different. Not breaking windows and pursue gay people on the street. Their agenda is about, preserving national idea and national borders and stuff like that. And most of them went to the front line at the moment the war broke up, or even before that. So there is a difference between ideological far-right groups that we can agree or disagree with them, but we need to respect opinions of different people, and the media-presented far-right group. It was really quickly picked up by the media, especially the foreign media, that it was a far-right group. Well, where we in fact had the meeting with these people eventually in the court when they broke the windows and so on, and we understood that these people have no national idea. They don't have any agenda. They don't have any, political reason. They just they've been set into the echo chamber where they were fed a certain misinformation about certain venues or clubs that they are, spreading drugs and gay people everywhere. And gay people are bad. And this is the facts, and they're presenting it as a fact. And these clubs, they're spreading gay people and blah, 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 and stuff like that. So a lot of this very childish bullshit. And unfortunately, they managed to recruit quite a lot of youngsters like that. Most of these people, they were underaged, most of them, that actually did the attacks. And they were led by older people who had some finance to do that. The reasons why they did it, we can debate, because unfortunately the investigation didn't find out the final beneficiary of these acts. Some people say that it was the Russian agent that created the tension within the society to present an image to the European society like, look, they are Nazis, and we need to go and liberate them from the Nazis. But the other people say that it's more trivial. It's just the question of developers who just wanted land to build houses. And they hired those people because those people were hired by developers before in a different area of Ukraine with a completely different agenda. We're fighting against the Roman settlements in certain areas. And that was another move towards that to close the clubs and sell the properties and open and maybe build something what they wanted to build. So unfortunately, this acts, they were not resolved. The court cases, the people were convicted, of course, for the violation and so on. But unfortunately, the final reasons why it happened, we cannot find. But I would not say that this was a political aggression, at least not a internal Ukrainian nationalistic political aggression against our venues, but rather a mafia conflict that was presented in a package of a far-right nationalism to create an idea and hide the real reasons behind it. Unfortunately, that's how misinformation works.
Yeah, thank you so much to the audience for raising the questions. Unfortunately, we need to come to an end now, but there will be the possibility to continue the discussion in the front part of Taz-Kantine, where we have Karine playing a live set. She was, not a live set, but ambient set again. She was DJ and booker of the legendary Closer Club in Kyiv, and she also now lives in Berlin and tries to carry the club's legacy out into the world. Now she has also an event series at Berkheim Panorama Bar, which is called Delirious. So I'm very happy to have her with me. Thank you for joining the discussion. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Andrii. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Eva, for your really important perspectives. Thank you once again to Panter Foundation for making this talk possible. Again, check out the project with journalists from Eastern Europe. They're really interesting on taz.de/Stiftung. And now another thanks to Peter and the technical team. And thank you very much for coming.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please stand with Ukraine. Дякую. Слава Україні.
Героям слава.